Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me tonight I have Michael joining in on me with the fun. I don't know about you, Michael, but we've been in a heat advisory all day today and continue into tomorrow. So recording and talking Pokemon in an air-conditioned basement sounds right up my alley tonight. And how have you been since our last episode?
Not too bad, man. And before I talk that, what is a heat advisory for the Midwest? I'm curious to know what that is for you as a southeastern person.
Yeah, so heat advisory here is when the heat index gets out of control. So
Oh
like
no, I
today,
know
the
that.
temperature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
the
yeah.
temperature?
Temperature is like 95.
Okay,
Heat
okay.
index is 115.
Ooh, all right, yeah, that's pretty
And
brutal.
not all of our schools, like not every single part of the school has air conditioning.
Oh
So
man,
some of the schools, in our area let out early
jeez,
before it got pretty miserable. So yeah,
gotcha. Okay,
I
makes
was a
sense.
dummy. Yeah, I was a dummy and walked to work like I always do.
Oh,
It's only about 7-8 blocks, so just about 7-8 minute walk. But
yeah,
when walking home at like 12:45 to grab my car because I had to drive to the other office for the afternoon,
rough.
it's a little warm. Yeah, it's a little warm.
Yeah.
If I
All
had to go
right.
much longer, I would have maybe had to change shirts before driving over to the next one. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
quite
wild.
warm. So yeah,
Yeah,
how have you
interesting.
been?
Not too bad, man. Yeah, it's not nearly as hot here. I feel bad for always talking about how hot it is here in North Carolina, but it's actually like 77 degrees right now. It was a little warm. It was like 90. But we had our heat advisories like in July. It was a miserable, miserable July. But yeah, we're making it. But no, week is starting off pretty well. It's Monday. So Graham will be starting first grade tomorrow, which is pretty exciting. It's crazy
Hmm.
to think that the summer is officially over for us. North Carolina is kind of, or not North Carolina, our area of North Carolina is kind of split between traditional and year round. Graham,
Yeah.
thankfully, or not thankfully, is on a traditional calendar, so he's got the full summer off. Whereas some of his buddies on the other side of our neighborhood, we've got a pretty large neighborhood. The other side of the neighborhood goes to school year round, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, so he starts first grade. We had orientation last week on Friday, and all that good stuff. So he's pumped, but he's also bummed, which I vividly remember being a kid and the visceral reactions I had to the idea of starting school, of being excited about seeing all my friends again, and getting the newness, but then also being sad too. So we did a last little hoorah this weekend. Got to do a lot of fun things. Obviously, he played in the double cup weekend with me too, which I'll chat about in just a moment. And then today, I didn't do as much work. I intentionally backed off some of my internal calls. Had no outward client facing calls today. So him and I just went out for lunch. We sat around, built some decks together. We got to play a little bit of TCG together. He played Scarlet Pokemon on the Switch, and so he had a pretty good day. It was a solid day. So yeah, but in terms of Pokemon, last week was a pretty busy week compared to the week prior. Obviously the week prior I was spent a ton of time learning OBS and trying to figure that out, but finally get to shift back in. I had to kind of get my mind ready for the Double Cup weekend here. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as I would love to, but we'll talk about that. But first, I think midweek played you, Aaron, in the standard tournament for the Patreon. And I ended up playing Diego Casaraga's Ancient Box list into your Great Test Mill list. I'll let you chat about how that went for you, but for me, it went pretty well. Um, I think obviously it feels like a pretty free matchup for the most part for Ancient Box, especially when you have Petrarunt in. So it went well. You got me one game, and I picked up two others. So we'll move on. I am playing someone who I think I am playing a two, or I think the one seed or something. Anyways, they paired down, so I feel bad for them. Hopefully, I don't hurt their resistance, and hopefully, I get the win.
Yeah, you need
Um,
to get a dub because
yeah.
Carlos is the back-to-back
Oh yeah. Oof.
standard challenge winner. So someone needs to dethrone him,
Okay.
and we
All
can't
right.
let him off to get another 3-0 start. So
Yeah. Might
we're counting on you.
no pressure or anything, right? New guy. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so that happened. Kept working on some 2015 worlds list. I used a website called Printing Proxies, and I'll link it in the description on all of the channels. I think something for a local friend of mine mentioned to me about, and I want to say he probably learned of it too, because I think I've heard Andrew Mahone talk about it. You can go on, slam in whatever cards you want. You can find the exact card that you want and print them out. And the more you order, the cheaper they become. So I ordered like 62 proxies, and it ended up being $62 versus having to buy 4 playsets of VS Seekers because I'm building 2015, so VS Seekers is there, and I already gone through that, so I didn't want to spend that money again. Um, VS Seekers, battle compressors. I finished my item finders for base fossil, so all that good stuff, and they feel and look really, really good. I wish I had one quickly accessible. Otherwise, I would show it
Yeah.
on the screen, but I'll link it in the description. It's a super cool resource, and I'll definitely be using them again. I know this is not sponsored, but maybe it could be one day. Um, but no, it's really cool. I am really excited about them and really close to being done in 2015, which hopefully will be done for Baltimore. So if you see me in Baltimore and you want to hang out and you want to play some retro, when we have some free time or side events or Sunday, if none of us didn't make day 2 or whatever it might be, I am your guy. So yeah. And then, like I said, double cup weekend. Saturday, I finished 9th place. I had just missed cut. They had a clean cut into top 8. I played Raging Bolt. Had a pretty solid day. Weird day, too, is very much a Mickey Mouse Cup. Some weird matchups there. I started out against Great Tusk Mill, ironically. However, as you know, Raging Bolt's not really great into Great Tusk Mill. Not really the ideal matchup. I made it somewhat. I put up a little bit of a fight, but at the end, he decked me out, and it was just inevitable. I can't remember what else. I think I played a Regidrago. I I played a Cloth Petulant, not the Petulant EX, but the one that comes in the 3-pack blister.
Yep.
Super cool deck, and I think he like modified something that Mahone had worked on, and essentially TLDR, the deck can scale up to 80 damage at every single Pokemon checkup with Petulant's ability, with Perilous Jungle in play, with Radiant Sneasler, with Brute Bonnet. Very cool deck. I asked the guy about the deck list, and I forgot to write it down, so I forgot it. But he said some crazy stat of like he won like 126 games and only lost 16 on PTCG Live with it. Can I confirm or
Dang.
deny whether that's true? But I believe him. It's a cool deck. And then I played a Bolt Mirror, lost that because I whiffed a turn 1 KO, and then prize 3 Raging Bolts. So pretty hard to win a game when you prize 3 Raging Bolts. Pretty important to have. And then played Iron Thorns for the last game and actually got the win because of the spicy tech that I put in. I put in Slither Wings and easy 2/2/2 prize map, and it felt so good to not lose that one. And then we just won't talk about yesterday. I went 3-3. Weird day. I beat a Guardy with Raging Bolt, which is cool. But yeah, so that's it. But yeah, that's me. My week's pretty exciting. No events. And then college football is freaking back, baby. I don't know about you. I think you might be an Iowa fan.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but I am a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, and I will be forever and ever and ever. And yeah, I can't wait to talk trash to a lot of people about college football. Eric, if you're watching this, our friend from the Beach Court podcast, I think you are a FSU fan, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you guys kind of just aren't great at playing football, losing to Georgia Tech and all that good stuff too. So if you're an FSU fan, I'm sorry. It's pretty embarrassing to go to Ireland and lose to Georgia Tech. As a Georgia fan, it makes me feel really good to see Georgia Tech beating up on a team like that too. So because I know we're going to beat Georgia Tech later in the year and then get to rub that in their faces. So I digress there. Good week ahead. College football's back, baby. Aaron, how about you? That was a long time. Let's hear about your week. Sounds like you had a good weekend. To tell me more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, we kind of started off with recording, and then us chatting even later because it was a long episode recapping Worlds, which you have to. It's it
Yeah.
happens once a year, and you going, oh no, I screwed up. It's an echo when we did the screen share.
Yep.
Listen, and we thank everyone for making it through. And we've already tested a few different times already, and we know that this will be coming out with premium audio, so that I'm happy. And then
Fingers crossed.
and then middle of the week, you and I played. You banned the deck that I really wanted to play, so looking at the matchups that I had, it was like nil or nothing. And basically, as what I found out, the counter catchers are not impactful whatsoever because you have Pentra and EX. The one game I went through, I was able to get the bundle up, and as soon as you realized that it's going through, I would say like each time I got you down to single digits.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess the biggest difference is just like I play a lot of items, and my
Right.
Pokestops kind of milled a couple double turbo energies, and
Yeah.
the one of the games. it was game one because I think no, game one was pretty much a straight shot. I just couldn't string. But like I think game three was
Yeah.
close where
Yeah.
if I needed to get the second Great Tusk down, and then
Hmm.
I could stage another attack and make it basically very, very close.
Yeah.
But just, didn't kind of hit the nest balls I needed to get it back in play or find the artisan to bump a Pokestop and get one down. So it was
Right.
fun. I
It
think
was fun.
the deck, I really do like it. It is fun. I would probably change like 1 to 2 cards just for the meta. Like Cornerstone Mask right now is not really good. So I probably would change that into like um, an Eerie to get things out of their hands that you would sit on for the Pal
Yeah.
Pad or the Super Rod, and I can't mill those because they're in your hand. So
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then the other nights was in the Discord. Hung out with DK and Carlos. Kind of talked some shop. Talked. Carlos and I kind of looked ahead for Stellar Crown format, and try to play like 3 or 4 different decks, and then went back to Sablezard, kind of edited from where I had it, many moons ago, pre-rotation, and I've quickly gone 5-0 with it. Going through the
Okay.
ladder, hitting
Nice
hitting
job.
matcher. It's an oldie but goodie, and that was my favorite way to play Lost Box. So
Yeah.
I might as well dust off those comfies one last time before
One last ride.
it goes away and it feels good. So
Yeah.
and then Saturday had a really long day. Last week was our as I talked about was our last week for the GLC tournament that we were running, and got to play against the top seed from Belgium, which was really cool because I had been to Belgium in
That's
2015 with my buddy in Europe, and I was hitting up him about the beer. I was like, why is your guys' beer so much better than everything else in the world? So we chatted. He was playing a water, like a non-rain dance, but more of a just kind of a straightforward water where you're not have to so dependent on like Baxcalibur or Frostmoth. And he
mm-hmm.
was playing the Seismitoad from Obsidian Flames, which is just really
Oh yeah.
lethal. Has
Yeah.
the ability that you have to do 1 extra energy, and then the attack scales, so it can start really hitting big numbers. And the first game, I played my field bowler too quick, and then he hit the luxurious cape on it, and I was like, "Oh, did
Oh,
not know you played that." So
200. What a
quickly,
tank.
yeah. So quickly, scoop from that. Game two was a lot closer, kind of back and forth, and just didn't have the combo pieces at the end to kind of
Interesting.
continue. I played water myself, which he had a little bit extra time. So then I was like, "Hey, can we play like dark into this?" Because I was like, that's what I was literally debating. And then like this morning, I just kind of was going back and forth and was like, we'll go with water because I hadn't
Yeah.
played that style yet. And docked him the first game. And the game two, it was able just to kind of string together attacks and keep the pressure on. So uh,
Yeah.
really a lot of fun. I'm already kind of thinking of what I can do for the GLC for prizing next time, right?
Nice.
Because like if you say an ETB, like no one's going to be up for that because they're looking just for GLC pieces. So I might have to dust off my GLC binder and see if I can like put together some key cards. So and then that was Saturday morning. Then we went back to Eastern Iowa, where I went to. It was my first college in Decorah,
Nice.
and it's so beautiful over there. Like Eastern Iowa feels like you're not in Iowa whatsoever. Bluffs and valleys for days. And met up with a bunch of college buddies and saw one of a guy that was a couple years older than me. He was a friend, but I also coached him because that was kind of my initial job coming out of college. And he had his wedding reception, so it was a lot of fun.
Nice. That's awesome.
A lot of singing, a lot of talking. Trying to talk over the music because you're seeing these people that you haven't seen in a year or a couple of years, so you're trying to catch up. So it was a lot of fun, and I got to meet and chat with my tennis coach when I first went there. I didn't coach with him, coached with a different coach, but it was good friends. It was just good about catching up and everything. So and then sports as everyone can see, I'm wearing my Liverpool jersey tonight. They're 2-0. I have a massive game this upcoming Sunday at Manchester United. So that and then Iowa football starts back up, and we have a new offensive coordinator. And as long as we're not next to last in offensive rating. We're at least going to be one step better.
Hey,
So I'm excited. We play like Illinois State, so it should be quite easy.
yeah.
But it's more so like, can we at least move the ball in offense and just give the defense any sort of rest? Because our defense has always been at the top among the nation. So it's a fun time of the year.
Yep.
That late summer into early fall, just because all the major sports are coming back. We have NFL coming back up in a couple weeks as well too.
That'll
So
be
it's
great.
just full poke and full sports like all the time, and it's like, all right, perfect. There's all your free time basically, and then hopefully putting the mower down. I mowed Saturday morning too after the GLC thing. Thank goodness I did that before, because trying to do it yesterday or
Yeah,
today, I would probably would have fainted. So, but we have a
yeah,
lot of news to get through.
we sure do.
Little bit more of a tight, yeah, a little bit more of a tight podcast here tonight. What won't go nearly as long, but still plenty of news to cover. Last Thursday, Michael, what did we start learning?
Yeah, so we had a lot of card reveals. We had a lot of some significant improvements or updates to the Play Pokemon Championships circuit. So we'll jump into that. First, though, I want to make sure everybody was aware, especially if you are planning to attend Louisville Regional. Let me switch over. Arcanine announced last week that registration will be going live at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is really important. So 7 p.m. Make sure you are ready to go for Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, August 28th at 7 p.m. I think it's left to be determined whether or not this is another situation where we're going to have to worry about caps and things like that. Judging by, which I haven't checked, but I want to say that perhaps I saw someone talking about the fact that Baltimore is officially capped now, or at least we've
Oh,
met
okay.
cap. Maybe don't hold me to that. But I think I saw someone. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just me Twitter doom scrolling. But it's TBD on whether or not this is going to be something where it fills up quickly or not. So just to be on the safe side, if you plan on attending, just be ready at 7 Eastern time to make sure that you are there and ready to go. Louisville's a cool place. If you're into some good bourbons, there's lots of good bourbons around. So you can make a cool trip out of it. So exciting times. I know there will be a handful, I think 4 to 5 PCS podcast crew member, the PCS crew. Patreon's included is all that. So, for those of us from the PCS side, I think there's going to be an Airbnb. At least that's something you've mentioned, which I think would be really rad to have that happen. That's always one of my favorite things about going to these events too, is you get to kind of room together with some of your friends, talk poke all week long or all weekend long, and things like that too. So, if you're going, be sure to put on your calendars, stop what you're doing at 7 p.m. and just get it done and out of the way.
Right.
Moving along, there was an announcement, again, just for the sake of me not screwing up. I'm not going to play the video on here, and I hope that you wouldn't hear the audio on here. If you do, that would be an issue. But Pokemon did announce, again, I think this video is incredible. I'm kind of scrubbing through it really quick, but Pokemon did announce some new locations too. We can chat through those. Let's
That they
see.
did.
We had everything leading up through the end of 2024 in terms of North American regionals too, so all the way up through Toronto. But they announced in March Vancouver is getting a regional, and then in May we have Milwaukee. Interestingly enough, this leaves us at 6 North American regionals, which I think a lot of us kind of assumed maybe, I don't know, 6 to 9. Last year we had 9 North American
Yeah.
regionals. So maybe the Southeast is getting snubbed this year. Baltimore, I guess, considered close enough to the South, but there's no mention of something in Charlotte again. No mention of, I've seen or heard rumors of Atlanta being a place. So far, we're not seeing anything there. Overall, I mean, kind of a balanced circuit here in North America too. We've got 2 Canadian regionals. We've got a West Coast, and then we've got an East Coast. And it looks like 2 Midwest, if you want to consider Louisville Midwest. I would consider it Midwest. So 2 Midwestern regionals. So it seems pretty balanced. I don't know if you kind of feel that way too, but as someone from the East Coast, obviously it is what it is. Same thing for the West Coasters. I think you in the Midwest kind of have, or in the middle of the states, kind of have a little bit of an advantage. You kind of get to go both ways. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think they'll announce anything else, or you think we're going to be chilling here on the North American side?
I do. I could foresee them doing one, possibly 2 more. Um, initially kind of seemed like they were going to kind of do like a three per season. So three in
Yeah.
the fall, three in the winter, three in the spring.
Hmm.
Um, and you can see like there's a very large gap between March to May. And after March, I believe they moved up EYC.
Yeah.
So it
Yep.
kind of still, we still don't know rotation and everything like that. So like that is a really big gap from the beginning of March to the beginning of May.
Right. Right.
So I could see something possibly fitting in there. And then NAIC is still around the same weekend. It's like one weekend later in June. So I could still see something, relatively in, after May or anything like that. But it
Hmm.
seems like even December to March is even a longer of a layoff. So it
Yeah.
feels like we're missing two kind of in those kind of really big
Right.
windows, and we'll get us to eight. Which we go through. They did announce a few more in Europe. I think Birmingham, and I swear
Hmm.
Stockholm was there. But
I
then
think.
they announced a ton of special events as well too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, which is really cool too. So we can see all the special events are in green here.
Green.
If so, and I don't, again, I wasn't paying super close attention to the SPEs prior to this announcement, so I don't know which was there before and which wasn't. But I know Latin America got quite a few SPEs announced there. Obviously, we can see the ones in Spain and the Netherlands, which interestingly enough, well, I guess SPEs don't pay. Do SPEs
They
pay out?
don't.
Right, so that makes sense then, because I know Spain has like a little bit of a issue in terms of like the gambling laws and things like that, which is why we don't
Yep.
see too many majors there. So this is cool that they are at least doing. I think that'd be a really cool one to attend. I don't think I'll go. Obviously, it's right around our son's second birthday, but I think it's cool that Spain is getting something, and I think with Scarlet and Violet kind of taking place, Paldea kind of being in the Spanish region of sorts, I think is really neat. I'm gonna be excited to see how they kind of pay tribute to that. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so all in all, really cool. It was exciting news to see Pokemon finally drop some things again. We talked about this on the Worlds episode, but it's cool. Like it seems like they're perhaps becoming a little bit more open with their announcements. As we'll chat about in a minute, there was some back and forth and some issues with the next set of info that we'll talk through. So Pokemon's still going to Pokemon. Big Pikachu's still going to be Big Pikachu. And at the end of the day, whether they disclose information to us or not, we're still going to follow along and we're still going to play the game religiously because that's just how we are with it too. So, but overall,
Yeah.
really exciting. I think this is it's shaping up to be a really good competitive circuit. It'll be interesting to see how many of the some of the top players in the world get to travel to some of these events and get to explore some new things. I know I have some local friends who are excited. They're going to be traveling to Dortmund and Gdansk and things like that too. So yeah, really
Oh,
cool.
fun.
Yeah, I won't be going, but it'll be fun to live vicariously through them. A little bit
Yeah.
younger, don't have families and things like that yet. So, anyways, pretty cool. But yeah, let's
Yeah. And then
transition. Yeah, you want to transition into it? The
yeah.
championship points updates. Wow.
Yeah. And then the bigger item was it seemed like for the communication or lack thereof communication from the Pokemon parent companies, either the one in Japan, but obviously TPCI,
Yeah.
it seems like they actually listened to maybe part of the community where they
Yeah.
when we talked about the reveals with Drew on the pod and discussed of the best finish limit, and it kind of at that point with the point payout for the internationals, it really felt like whoever can attend those three and have good finishes, like they're going to be taking care of the top X. So the biggest thing is the best finish limits went to 5 from 6,
Yep.
and the IC point structure almost cut like a third for especially in the
Mm-hmm.
top half.
Yeah.
So as well. So the best finish limit 5 that we talked about, for those that maybe aren't aware, but if you are listening or watching, probably are somewhat aware. But basically, you can go to 5 major events, and if you only go to 5, then that's just your best finish limit there. But for some of those pro players that obviously go to more than that,
Right.
they can go to as many regionals and ICs that they can register for, but they can only keep 5 total finishes.
Yeah.
Going around points, obviously. So the ICs were like the big things where previously it was 750 points for the winner, and now it's back down to 500. So they've scaled it down, and 700 to 480, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the page went there. as well too, and we'll have the link in description. But
Mhm.
it feels a lot more balanced now than it did of like just kind of a money rush to get to the ICs and go through. Obviously, they still have more points than regionals, which they
Sure,
should, right? Bit more
absolutely.
competition. Um, in terms of regionals versus ICs are much more cultural. You know, there's people from all over, as opposed to maybe just and people nowadays do travel from outside
Yeah,
um, a certain region or anything like that. It's pretty common for Europe to hit up a few North American regionals, but obviously it's vastly different going to an IC because of the point structure. So really focuses on you know the quality of your results, and that's what we
exactly.
kind of talked about was, hey, if you're only going to be able to go to one IC in like three majors, like you just got to grind and make sure that even if you can't go to a fifth major event, you just really got to prep and score
Yeah,
points at those to try to get to the top 125 if you're in the North America circuit. So
yeah, yeah. And I saw some
quite
interesting Quite what?
yeah, I was gonna say quite a change. I think this
Yeah,
is overall a positive change.
I agree.
Um, but I was just gonna say, what do you kind of think of where they landed with this?
Yeah, I think. I mean, let's be real. For me and where I'm at in my PTCG journey, I don't realistically see myself ever, getting to the point where I qualify for Worlds this year. Maybe I do, but the goal for me is to focus on the quality of play too. I saw JW post that too, and it's this you've alluded to it. It's quality over quantity, right? Like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, like I have a whole family, I've got a job, things like that. So like I can't attend everything, and I'm not,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that I'm jealous or mad of the people who can, because that's the life that they get to live, right? Like, so for me, like, I do think this makes it better and easier for more people to potentially make a run too. I think about I listened to the tag team podcast this past week, and they talked about Jesse, and Andrew was talking about Jesse just being a normal dude. Like, he works at a bank, he lives a normal life, he's got bills to pay. Like, Pokemon is not his full time gig, it's not his life. Um, and so I think this update here really does, it doesn't necessarily cater to, because at the end of the day, like a normal everyday, couple events a year kind of person is still going to struggle to qualify, but it does put the onus on you a bit more to be, to get the quality reps and to be a quality player too. So again, if you're good enough to make it to Worlds, you're going to make it to Worlds, whether you go to every single event or you top out at one event and that's it, right? So, no, I'm not mad about it. I think it's cool, and I like the fact that they brought down the ICs, like 250 points for IC first place. And I mean, dude, like you can still make top 1024 and get 40 points. If I don't think if you
Yeah,
get 40
that they
points,
didn't even change that. Yeah, they didn't even
yeah,
change that. They left
right,
that there, so it's like
yeah,
literally 1,000 place you can
right,
get
right.
40 points,
I mean,
which is pretty wild.
yeah, good luck getting the world doing that, but hey, it's something, right? And I think I saw some stuff on Twitter too. I can't remember who talked about it, but again, this is all speculation. We don't really know, but I think like a good we as competitive Pokemon players want to associate points with Worlds qualification, even though this year it kind of does matter, but it kind of doesn't at the end of the day. But I saw someone say like a 730, someone who has 730 points would probably comfortably make top 125 in the Masters division. So we'll see if that holds true in a year from now, or less than a year from now, obviously. But we'll see how close that guesstimation is. But seems about right. I think we could obviously look at the data and the amount of points people had who qualified for Worlds last year and so forth. Obviously, you're going to have the outliers who are significantly higher and things like that too. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy about it. My goal is and will still always be this season, no matter how many events, to make day two and to make as deep of a run as possible. If I win it, great. Will I win it? Probably not. I think there are a lot of better Pokemon players out there, but you better believe I'm going to put in as much time and effort as I can, um, to do as best as I can at those events too. So that's my thoughts on it. Um, yeah, I don't think
And
there's anything else. Yeah,
one other significant announcement is there's no day one worlds buy
yeah, yeah. Great call out.
for TCG and VGC, so that they also put that in there,
Yeah,
which I think is positive because Worlds as we know it, right? We had almost 1,000 competitors out in Hawaii, and we are not going to get near that number in um, Anaheim
right.
this next year. So yeah, so they've changed that. So I think that's good because it's more of a controlled environment, and everyone's starting out at 0-0. seems, I guess, fair because again, it was only top 16 for like North America, and I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 22 for Europe and stuff. But
Right.
it seems like they're just saying, "Hey, everyone's 0-0. You've earned a right to be here by either winning a major event or special or top four at an IC, and then you're no and get ready to go." So
Yeah.
the only other factor that I knew you wanted to touch on
Yeah.
was we heard this ELO based rating, which is what they used in a way back, and there's a couple really good deep dive podcasts in that. But I know you wanted to touch about it just because it was something that even affected your son this weekend.
Yeah, so I think in terms of those of us in the Masters division, I don't think it really is going to be as hyper relevant. So it's basically the new ELO ratings and ranking system, wins, losses, things like that. Basically a tiebreaker situation. And again, for Masters, I don't foresee this being as big of a deal, but where I really think it's going to actually significantly impact actually, or those in the juniors and senior division. So, for example, Graham, Aaron, like we were talking about earlier, my son Graham, he's 6. He's still getting his feet wet in the competitive Pokemon world. And as many parents of juniors who are playing know, you're inevitably going to show up to a place where you've had other juniors attend at other times, and then there's not going to be a junior there. So Graham, for example, this week we showed up. There was the cup on Saturday out of town in High Point. Graham was the only junior, so by default, he was guaranteed to get 50 points and win first place and get the championship now, which is cool for his his mental game. It's really cool for him to get excited. Obviously, like he knows I didn't play any juniors, but still. But what happens, especially at this particular site, which I do really appreciate because it's really good for Graham, they will pair him against seniors. And so he played 5 rounds, just like we did in the Masters division. He played 5 rounds against seniors and he played one against the Masters. He actually got a win against one senior, which is pretty rad. I'm always stoked when he gets a win against someone who's almost twice his age, but it's still in terms of tiebreaker. So if for whatever reason it comes to the point where Graham is like on the fringe of getting into being the top 75 juniors in the world, which I think he's actually like 150, which is pretty cool. Like kids way higher up than I am on the Masters ranking. But if there ever comes to a point where it's the tiebreakers needed, stuff like that's going to impact him. He got the points, but he had the losses. So it's good and bad, right? Like I get it. I get that like there's going to be juniors who go and they're going to play other juniors and they're going to win and they're going to get it that way. And like, sure, they should make it in. But you will start to see some of these fringe cases popping up, I think, with this new ELO rankings factor. Again, I don't think we need to spend much more time on that, but just something that is kind of a little bit more to home to me. I think I don't do I think Graham will qualify for this year? I would love to see him do it, but I'm not holding it against him or holding it to him. I'm not putting that pressure on him. But I could foresee this being a conversation among juniors and seniors' parents at some point, or juniors and seniors, the kids themselves too. I think this is going to come up more than we particularly maybe even see it now, especially with there being a lower amount of top 75 versus top 125 too. So like that's going to be a difference
Yeah.
factor. But yeah. So that's it. I think that's all for the competitive news that we should update you all on. Obviously, there's a ton of updates, and I'm sure, well, at least not sure. Fingers crossed, we'll get some updates as we go into the season on additional regionals. Maybe we don't. Maybe this is it. Who knows? No one knows. Big Pikachu knows, but not us.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I'll pass it over to you. I think there's some GLC updates you want to chat about too, as our resident GLCer. I am nowhere near qualified to talk about this.
Yeah. So Mahone had kind of been talking about there's probably a few cards that have been on his radar. If anyone is like me and just anytime he does tabletop content, particularly, I'm just glued in. And usually watch it a couple times just because they're longer, right? So I can't
Yeah.
always watch the full thing. So I'll watch like the first half one night, and then the next night watch the other. And the times that he's done his latest GLC, probably like the last 3 or 4 times, he's kind of talked about like there's some stuff in the crosshairs. There might be an update coming, and with some reveals and just looking at it more, and probably talking to like Weeder who runs Cardboard Warriors. And like Jeff, I know Jeff was super pumped. Jeff Beisch had 2 deck lists get posted on Tricky Gyms, or not
Oh,
Tricky Gym, but the Gym Leader Challenge. So that was
congrats.
super awesome for Jeff
Yeah.
to go through. So I think they kind of, because like Cardboard Warriors collects like all this data as well too, kind of like a Limitless, but for strictly GLC. So yeah, he announced three big bands, and I don't think anyone could be super surprised at this. I think we all kind of knew it was coming. The first one was
And
Marshadow.
real quick, I'm going to jump in here too. Just one
Yeah.
quick update. We will be posting again. If you're not watching, I want to make
Oh,
sure
right.
we're, yeah, no, you're good. We're learning too. So, hey, you're learning with us. Everybody's learning together. If you're listening to this on audio only, we are screen sharing currently. Again, we're going back and forth. Aaron's going to be walking through the description. He's going to talk about some stuff too. So we'll link everything in the description. But back to you. Sorry, I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, no, thank you. So yeah,
We're
there
learning.
is a Marshadow that was frequently played in standard when it was during through. It has an ability called Let Loose, and when you play it from your hand to your bench, uh, both you and your opponent have to shuffle their hand and draw four cards. Now, being able to do that with like a fog crystal and like Psychic has broken search. So,
Yeah.
Fog Crystal, Mysterious Treasure, obviously a Quick Ball, obviously Nest Ball doesn't qualify, but Buddy Buddy Poffin puts some straight on the bench as well too.
Yeah.
So you have to find it, but it has the Let Loose ability. Goes through and it basically can kind of end games like it did in Standard back when it saw play. It can kind of just end games quickly, right? Because if you were able to get your board established and then just finish it off with a let loose, and your opponent hasn't even got to do anything yet, if you were going first,
Yeah.
obviously they could hit the nuts and get into a good supporter, what have you. But again, having six cards and then seven with your draw for turn, obviously you can do a lot more combos to get your board well established. Which GLC is very similar to standard that way, where a lot of the first turns are really about not taking KOs, but actually getting your board state established. And no one's better at that than if you watch Tord, he's not going to sacrifice his board state for a
Exactly.
quick, easy play, unless it's a dunk, of course. So
Yep.
that's gone. And all these are effective September 1st. So I think I might need to try to get a psychic one in there as well too, because I had a psychic, but I could never. I always get lost when playing through. But yeah, and someone in the Tricky Gym Discord made a really funny
Uh,
cartoon of it. So it was like, so that's it then. After almost 3
yeah.
years, it's just so long. Good luck. And Marshadow saying this to Mahone, which is GLC Daddy, and he says, "I don't recall saying good luck." So I think it's right. Psychic, like I said, is already like one of the
uh,
top tier meta calls for GLC. So it's probably right. Just trying to keep the game fair.
I
The
love that they
next
also have
one,
his Misty tattoo here too. They
yes,
were
yeah,
very
yeah,
detailed
exactly. Yeah,
with
it's very,
it.
very good. Whoever Ash is in the Tricky Gym Discord
Yeah.
did an amazing job.
Uh,
And then the
kudos to
next
you.
one, I know many GLC fans are happy to see go if they weren't playing Lightning, that is, and that is the Amazing Rare Raikou. We saw it, in standard in the Lugia with the Aurora Energy just being absolutely busted. But Amazing Raikou was a car that he even states it was always going to be banned, right? It's just the right
It's just a
time
matter of
for it.
time.
Yep, yep. So his amazing shot at tat, for those that don't recall, it does 120 to the active and then 120 to the bench, which those number in GLCs are basically two knockouts. And you're really, uh, just devastating your boards or your opponent's board basically with that. And normally it was always you needed to kind of be behind in pricing, so you could use a Raihan or a counter energy, and then when you went back up in prizes, counter energy just turns to a basic colorless. So it's not like you were stringing in Raikou over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's usually once, and if you were extremely lucky, possibly twice, but you really only need to get it turned off once. But now with the Joltik that's gonna be coming out in Stellar Crown in a couple, or yeah, it's so crazy that
Dude,
Stellar
two
Crown comes out
weeks.
in 3 3 weeks, yeah.
3 weeks. Yeah.
The 13th, yeah, 13th. But
Yep.
Joltik from Stellar Crown says you can search up for two lightning energy and two grass energy and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon. Well, now there's so much like rainbow energy, so Aurora energy, rainbow energy, obviously.
Right.
Luminous energy would even qualify now as to fill in that steel type that Raikou needs. Um, and it's just, yeah, so long and happy
Broken.
trails to go through. And then Magneton, he even talks about this even coming out later this year. And
Yeah.
Surging Spark was like the file nail in the coffin. But I think he misread Magneton's, which we'll get into in a little bit. But we'll talk about it too when we show the card off.
Yeah.
But it's three lightning
Right.
energy, not 3 any basic energy. So it's 3 basic
Actually,
lightning energy.
at least the one he should. Maybe we were wrong. I'm looking at this one, and again, this might be a translation thing, but this says 3 basic energy cards from your discard pile.
Well, from his website, but I think if we go to Tuan Lei's thing and actually
Uh,
look at the
got
thing,
it.
there is clearly a lightning symbol on there. I know that the
Interesting.
first like
Interesting.
hour that it was revealed, I think people were
Yeah.
going. Your heart, Jake, your heart, of course, was melting. But it's three lightning. So,
Okay. Yeah. Because
yeah,
the one I'm showing right here on the screen actually has none. So interesting. So no, you
yeah,
can't believe everything you see on the internet.
right. And then the last one is Dust Skull, which I think this was is obviously going
Yeah.
to be coming. It shouldn't be that easy to just win the game on turn one. So there's a Dust Skull that, funny enough, I had just pulled from a pack that I'd gotten. Like kind of bought like a raffle that you get like 5 random packs. Normally it's a lot of standard stuff, but every now and then you kind of get old one. And I pulled this, and I was like, oh sweet, I know that the new Dusclops and Dusknoir are coming out, so that'll be really good. And won't ever get to play that. So had a cool ability during your first turn. Before you even attack, you can discard 3 from your hand, and then you're able to evolve. And obviously, the Dusclops that just came out, now
Right.
you're looking at 5 damage counters, and then there's other things in stadiums as well too that you're able to get up to 13 damage counter spread. So, yeah, those got removed, and they will be all out in September 1st is the official ban date.
Yeah.
And then I do like it because being like a kind of a dark, I really like dark and colorless. That felt really good. I've always been working on fighting. But he talked about Guzzlord, and he said, no, that's not going anywhere unless there's something really crazy for dark support to really accelerate. But it's like you're not just getting that off turn one. You need a turbo. You need Guzzlord, or excuse me, Guzzlord on the bench, and then something to get turbo energized to get 2 darkness energy on it. And then like Beast Ring again is only if your opponent's on 3 or 4 prizes. So fun stuff. I really enjoyed our GLC, event that we had. We had 10 players in it, which was amazing. Never knew we would get in there, but good for Mahone to keep things going through. This is his brainchild, right? So
Yeah.
he did a very good job of detailing out why, and we'll have that link in the description as well too for audio listeners or people want to read word for word as well too, because Mahone dives into much more of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
and then like I said with last week, coming off Worlds, it just a lot of news. Michael, and we've got quite a few card reveals to go through. We're not going to spend tons of time talking about, well, what decks could they go through. It's just this is what the card is, yay or nay, and kind of move on to the next one. But we did get a lot of reveals. I think the first thing we talked to is we're going to have 2 ultra premium collections this year. So there's the Terapagos box, and then Michael, I think you'll be pulling up here the Ninja EX box as well too,
I will
which I thought
be.
was kind of odd that we have 2 ultra premium. Usually that's kind of like a one time a year thing, but I guess they're just they really want to move that product. So Greninja fans unite.
Yeah, yeah, and interestingly enough too, and let me find it really quick. 'Cause I don't think I had it pulled up. Yep. So here we go. Um, I don't know. It's cool. I'm not really much of a collector of these sorts of things. I think the playmat's kind of cool. All the dice, things like that. Um, yeah, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time. It will be neat to see Greninja get some love. One of Ash's beloved Pokemon from the anime series 2, who also helped Lucario out to help, eventually, spoilers, but he won the World Coronation Series. And Greninja helped Lucario do all that good stuff. So cool. It's always cool to see Greninja get some love. Of course, we'll get the same. If you remember the 151 UPC that came out last year, the deck boxes are kind of like the little slims of olden days,
Yeah.
and all that good stuff too. So pretty standard pricing, $110, all that good stuff. So yeah, pretty
Yeah,
neat.
the only like consideration is like the deck mat. So like the
Yeah.
151 deck mat, or sorry, play mat was like actually stitched, versus
Hmm.
the Charizard one that we got was just garbage, right? Because they folded up, so it's almost like it's literally in squares. So yeah, that'd be the only thing is if it's stitched like the 151, like those play mats were fairly large,
Did
and
you
playable, but
did you like the stitching on the 151 one? I honestly I didn't love
I
it.
like my playmats to have stitching.
Interesting. Huh.
The one that we got like at regionals I went to in Fresno and like NAIC, they don't have it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
found
yeah.
like over time, like it kind of can kind of
Right.
like perk up versus the
Mm-hmm.
stitching kind of keeps it
Kind of
down.
keeps it.
So
Yeah.
but I know the Charizard one that we got a couple years ago was just garbage. Like it's
Yeah, it
just
was.
it's so bad. Like if you open it up and like I tried to might just stretch mine out, try to put books on it, and I could not get the creases off.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like the only little thing. And I wish the deck boxes were literally like 1 inch wider, so then you could kind of fit a full
I know.
uh full thing in it, because it feels like if you try to get 60 sleeves, just even regular sleeved,
Right.
every now and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll do double sleeves depending on how ultra rare I want to go with my deck. But just doing 60 regular sleeves, like I couldn't fit it in there
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
too. So then we got a whole bunch of surging sparks
Yeah.
reveal, Michael. I think you're going to kind of lead off with the highlights of what
Yeah.
that happens here with the tweet that we got.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got a tweet from Poke Guardian. Crazy massive set. So if you're a collector, RIP to your wallet. I yeah. Over 250 cards expected for Surging Sparks. 8 specs, 8 Stellar Terra Pokemon EX, and 9 Terra Pokemon. 23 illustration rares, 11 special illustration rare and supporter cards, and then 6 hyper rare gold edged cards. So, like I said, RIP to those who want to complete this set. It's going to be quite expensive. I think for me personally, when I think about this set and when I think about Stellar Crown as well coming out, like I think this is like the perfect meshing of. So if you do happen to love to have a sealed collection of Pokemon cards for the future, I think these next two sets are actually potentially going to hold some pretty high value because of their
Yeah,
playability and their collectability too. From everything we've seen about both sets being revealed, like Pokemon is just they're freaking nailing it with every single release, and these IRs are insane. And I think these next two sets might be just those sets that are going to hold some value over time as well. So if you do collect and you do enjoy that, like there are occasionally times where I'll pick a sealed Pokemon Center ETB or a booster box, and I'll keep that sealed just to have, you know. I think this might be the one, but really exciting reveals here. I can't wait to see more that's going to come out of this. The promo that we'll talk about here, the Magneton, in just a moment. The ETB promo looks great. The actual set reveal of everything that we see. Well, there's a little spoiler. All the artwork looks insane. Like we got the Terra, the Stellar Pikachu with the crown on, like the pack artwork. Like Pokemon just is nailing it lately. I'm happy with where the direction of the organization is going. I think we got Pikachu, Latios, and Latios. We've got long neck guy is what my son likes to call a phone executor. And then we got Archaludon. So they're just knocking out of the park. And this will be a complete set as well. So, of course, you'll get booster boxes. We won't have to suffer through the special set like we did with Shrouded Fable and waiting for the ETBs to come out. And then we still have to wait 2 more weeks for the booster bundles and all that. We'll just have one massive money drop to get what we need for playables. And then if you want to collect it, again, if you're finishing the set, good luck to you. Good luck, have fun, as I should say there.
yeah, and I'll make a correction here because I needed to find something without the illustration of the Magneton. So I was actually able, because it's going to be one of the
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
what was it, the I've only done like 2 of them because they're not that much, but the pre-releases, those box that you can kind of get your 40 card build a
Mm-hmm.
battle kits almost. It's gonna be Magneton's gonna be one of those, so I found that. So the key is it is 3 basic energy cards, so any basic energy card, but the stipulation is to your lightning Pokemon. So I just had those backwards.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Amazing Rare Raikou, yeah, has to be banned in GLC
Absolutely.
now. Like absolutely has to, because that's just crazy. Then the ability knocks itself out, so that's actually kind of like Magneton's thing. Like even all the way back in the original base, days, it had that same thing where you were able to like discard it, but you actually attached it to your Pokemon, and then it
Uh,
counted as 2
that
energy.
was
Um,
similar. Yeah, that was Voltorb.
yeah.
Or
Oh, Voltorb. Thank you.
Voltorb
Yeah.
Electra.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is Voltorb. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're good. Similar. It's the
So
same
yeah,
lightning theme
similar.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, same type. But knockout. Obviously, you don't attach the
Right.
Pokemon to it, because that was always kind of threw me off when I saw that, and I was like, wait a second. But yeah, just energy cards. So I wanted to.
Yeah.
Andrew Mahone was right. I was wrong. But it's it's really hard to see that card when you look at the illustration rare one or the promo that we'll get in the ETBs. So I went and found the actual thing. I was like, okay, I knew there was something about lightning Pokemon. I just had it backwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first reveal. And the knockout could enable a counter catcher. And then, as you put
Exactly.
in our notes, thank you very much for a couple prize cards
Yeah.
with that. So
Can just hear
yeah,
it
it should be
now.
kind of fun. Anytime you have like little abilities like that knocks out, so at least it's not so broken where you just win the game on the spot. At least your opponent's taking a prize, just like with the Duskull and Dusclops and everything. So,
Yeah.
and then we have some other reveals of some of the EX and trainers as well too.
Yeah.
If you
You
want
want
to
to
touch on the first one,
you want to start with counter gain? I think we've got a couple of them pulled out, and
yeah,
I think you mentioned this earlier too. I don't know if a lot of them are worth going super in depth on, but there are a few that really stood out. Obviously, counter gain. Everybody's excited to see counter gain coming back. Again, for those of you who are listening on audio, we'll have all the links to Tuan's post and all the other ones. I don't think I have all of Tuan's here, but we'll link everything in the description. But yeah, so counter gain again reads exactly like the old one. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to cost one colorless less. So pretty great to have. And I think maybe I'm drawing a blank here, but don't we see something else coming out as well in Stellar Crown that's similar? Oh no, is it the Ace Spec, the Terra
there's an
Stellar?
A spec that
Yeah,
we touched on where
yeah.
it's a tool, and if it's attached, it
That's right. So this wouldn't work
it
in
costs
tandem.
any color. Yeah, it costs basically any
Yeah,
type of energy less. So like Dragapult EX right now, I've seen has kind of been the most big abuser because you can do your
exactly.
damage spread with just literally a single basic psychic or fire.
Yep,
You don't have to have
exactly.
both; it's just one. Which again, Jamie Tower, Lost Vacuum, and stuff like that. But
Sure.
like I said, you're only kind of playing that if you can string it together attacks. So, but
Right.
yeah, the counter gain. I literally just ordered one of these for GLC to try to kind of like stage with my fighting deck in particular. Just
Mm-hmm,
trying to
mm-hmm.
because they have really really good attacks, but there's only a couple that really are energy efficient. Is all I'll say. And so I just ordered these, and I was like, kind of like looking at one of the golds, and I was like, could be kind of cool. And I didn't spring, and then last week we saw this. So I was like, oh, I literally just ordered that
And
a
it
week
shot
before I
right
should.
up.
Yeah, I was like, I should have got maybe a playset instead of just one, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna be. It looks like an uncommon, so
Yep.
but
Yep.
hopefully it's not nearly as bad as like some other cards that we've had that are like
Yeah.
uncommons and no one could play. No one could pull anything. So
I don't
uh,
suspect it'll be another counter catcher thing too. When that was announced, when people were jumping on the Sun and Moon counter catchers for like $50 for the secret
yeah,
gold ones. Yeah, maybe not
yeah.
as drastic, but yeah, still
I
excited.
think that's I think that's probably one of the most like playable cards that we know of, obviously.
Yeah.
And for those watching, that's our cockapoo Bella, so
Yep.
she's probably going to lay down right over my corner and take a nap. So, and then the other one that I was excited about, and I know former co-host, and he'll be on again. We'll have to get Drew back on, but he was really excited about Arch Aladon EX coming out. Uh, that's kind of was like my first deck that I picked up and played was Arceus Duraludon VMAX.
Mm-hmm.
Won me quite a few challenges to our locals because it's very basic, and when you're starting out, it's very easy to play and energy accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
But this is I think the biggest stage one because
It's a tank.
technically the hero form Palafin EX has 340 HP, but it is kind of like a stage two with
Right.
the cool ability that they have. Like I said, I've never seen something like that before. But
Yeah.
Archaladon EX, it's going to be a 300 HP stage one EX
Yeah.
Pokemon. Has a cool ability, allo building once during your turn. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may attach up to 2 basic metal energy from your discard pile to Pokemon in any way you like. So initially, I don't even know if you really played with Dialga. I think you just played with the metal makers, but you have Greninja Ultra Balls to get stuff away, and then you just start to go through. And
Yeah.
then the coolest thing is classic 220, and just like Duraludon VMAX did, so they're hitting that kind of magical number.
Yep.
And then the coolest thing is during your next turn, this Pokemon has no weakness. That
Mm-hmm.
is really cool,
Right.
particularly a certain Radiant Charizard,
Mm-hmm.
which again might not be in play
Right.
all that often while this is in play, depending on that rotation. But obviously, a few months will be overlap, and I really like that because it forces them because Escape Rope rest in peace. It will come back one day. It always
It's
does. But
got to
like
come back.
that's not in format, so there's just not a lot of good ways. You have to have a prime catcher and a boss to
Yeah.
bring this back up, right?
Right.
You can't just play an escape rope and get around it anyway. So that's a really cool. And I like it because it's only hitting 220 and it has to have 3 metal energy on it. But a pretty cool card. I know Drew. I know was already tweeting about it. I saw he saw Japan list. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
already in love. So I know he'll be gearing up and probably be playing this to our
Hmm.
locals once we get Surging Sparks, obviously, fully out and about. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was probably a decent one to talk about. And then there's a few other ones, like Surfer was one that I thought is like we really need to read the card if you want to go ahead and do that, and just so people kind of it's kind of cool
Yeah.
in terms of what its effects are.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Basically, Surfer says switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. So, again, I think just another way to dig out of an unfair stamp, dig out of a late game Iono to two. There are lots of ways where this card can just give you something to respond with too. So the comeback mechanics, things like that, are really nice. So, and on top of that, it allows you to bring up a Pokemon that you want. So, yeah, pretty neat. I mean, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head in terms of where I'd see this being played a ton. But it is cool to see some new viable trainers coming, and it's not a situation like a Gita where you never see Gita played anywhere. So it's always cool to see when that happens too. I think early in Scarlet and Violet era, we saw some trainers that just were kind of meh. And I think now
Yeah.
more and more we're starting to see some trainers just be good and have some potential and in the the competitive TCG meta. So
Yeah, this has much more of a potential where, if they were doing, well, the easiest thing that I can think of is like, Sableye, right? Where
right.
they counter catcher up your Bidoof and then do damage spread right to try to get that 4 price turn the next thing or something like that, where we're manipulating the damage. Uh, and let's say they unfair stamped you, right?
Yep.
Having this is like, all right, I can bring my attacker back up and I get to draw some cards. So like that's decent.
Right.
I still think like Bird Keeper was the superior option because it was just
Agree.
no matter
Agree.
what to get draw 3. But this is a little bit watered down. Hint, hint. The Surfer. Yes, that I
Mm-hmm.
purposely said that where it's watered down. So
Insert drum.
yeah, yeah. And then probably two other that we can talk about. I think Michael, like we'll show
Yeah.
all of them, but the other one I think you wanted to talk about the. I
The
mean, to me,
megaton.
yeah, the Megaton Blower, which certainly a name,
Yeah.
but just kind of a wild effect on a card. And then A spec, right? They're going to have some wild
Mm-hmm.
effects, but I know
Mm-hmm.
this one kind of hits home close to your heart if you want to talk about
It does. If you play this, we've got beef. This is
it.
the Megaton Blower says discard all your opponent's stadium, special energies, and tools in play. So it's field blower on steroids. And it's obviously a one of. It's an A spec. It doesn't, at least as far as we know, there's no stipulation to where it can't go back into your hand. Obviously there are some A specs that stipulate you cannot return this to your hand at any point during the game. So this could create some interesting situations. And again, if you're playing Lugia and you play this, it just means you just straight up hate Lugia. You're getting rid of everything Lugia has to offer. So yeah, do I see this being played? I personally, and maybe this is me meta manipulating to the small percentage of you all listening here for the time being, but I don't foresee this being played anywhere. And if you do, like I said, we've got some beef because you just hate Lugia, and I'm not a fan of that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
not currently.
right.
Just maybe kind of thinking ahead is like could be due for some more broken um special energies, particularly like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
probably next spring when
Right.
Lugia is rotated, or else that it just
They
it can
right.
never have that amount. Yeah, it can never have that amount. Legacy energy already is a viable A spec, but
Yep.
like never again can we have that amount of rainbow energy in a deck because it
Yeah.
just demolished everything in sight.
And I think
The other note.
the
Go ahead.
creators of the card, I think the game designers are well aware of that.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
I'm
but
guessing so. There could be some more cool special energy, coming up
mhm.
in later sets in the Scarlet and Violet era that we obviously are going to be in for quite some time because ZNA zero announcement last week at
Yep.
Worlds as we talked about. The other one that I thought was worth mentioning was the Quaquaval. So this is a stage 2 Pokemon.
Correct.
Obviously, it evolved from the starter that I chose, or I guess I should say my son chose, Quaxley, and that was before I knew what it evolved into. So I was thinking like the Spanish Armada, a pirate duck, and I was
That's
very,
funny.
yeah,
Very
very
wrong.
unfortunate. Yeah, very wrong. So I was like, oh boy. Uh, and it's a stage 2. It does have a really kind of unique and an ability from one of the best cards that we or like support Pokemon that we've had, and it's very similar to the Claydol, but here it is a stage 2, and you can put one of your cards on the bottom of your deck, and then draw up to 5 cards. Pretty cool ability, but if you want to bring up the Claydol,
Yeah.
and I can touch on that one
It is a
just to him
slightly
because
nerfed Claydol.
yeah. So Claydol was an amazing stage 1, so not stage 2. And it had the Poke Power back in the day, Cosmic Power. Once during your turn, you may choose up to 2 cards from your hand and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, draw until you have 6 cards in hand. And it said, this can't be used if Claydol is affected by a special condition. So couldn't do it in the active if you were poisoned, paralyzed, etc. So Quaquaval, almost a really good card. But right now we don't have anything viable in terms of Quaxley, and then like one of the coolest names
Yeah.
in Scarlet and Violet is Quaxwell, which is cool. But no abilities on those and anything like that. I know there's another Quaquaval from I think Space Scarlet and Violet that you're able to accelerate a basic energy from your hand to Pokemon, but again, a stage 2, and
Right.
without, I just don't think we're ever going to see that Ralts Curlia Gardevoir lineup that we had
Nope.
pre-rotation.
Nope.
Obviously now there is still another refinement Gardevoir out there, but it only hits 120, so
Yeah.
obviously not nearly as good. But like I said, it's almost close to being good. Maybe we'll get another Quaxwell, but I think there's a couple different arts, or not arts, a couple different versions of it. But if we don't get that, then I'm not too sure. Like Irida, we know is going to be rotating as well
Hmm.
too, and that's just such a good card. It's a 4 of in every single water deck.
Yeah.
But like I said, it almost is good, almost. But again, good for an ability, right?
Yeah.
Even in like GLC, pretty good of a
Hmm.
draw support. I just don't think it's ever good. It's a stage 2, and that kind of what kills it off, because you're just always going to have artillery, which is basically a barrel right now. Draw up to 5 with
Right.
your hands. You're just always going to have that because it's a stage 1.
Yeah. Yeah. I always kind of low key feel bad for the Quaxley line because it really has just kind of it's gotten shafted among the 3 starters from Scarlet and Violet era. Obviously, if you don't love Fuecoco, again, I think we've got some beef because Fuecoco is just one of the cutest starters I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, probably one of the stars of Pokemon Horizons, and of course, Sprigatito. Quaxley, on the other hand, just okay. That's cool. I mean, I don't know. Feel
I
bad for
liked
him.
Quaxley. The
Yeah,
the rest of the line I did not really
yeah,
like
that's
whatsoever. So yeah.
maybe a little whiffed, but yeah. Anyways, cool card. As I affectionately call it, Claydol at home. But yeah, not nearly as good. Do we have one more? I think there was the Black Kyurem.
I think if you want to do, yeah, so there's the Black Kyurem, which we can do on
Gross.
quick, and then I can let you finish off with the
Yeah,
Stellar Flygon EX, because I think that one we need to talk about.
yeah.
But Black Kyurem, a basic EX, 230 HP, uh, nothing super broken, but like just having an attack with 3 colorless does 90 damage. And it says if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Dragon Pokemon, it's just auto paralyzed.
Yeah.
So it's not all paralyzed like anything, right? But it has to be Dragon. But it does seem, with as we saw with Lily's Clefairy as well too, it does seem like they're kind of targeting Dragon Pokemon
Hmm.
as well too, because we know there's going to be some like Stellar Dragon Pokemon that come out in the next few sets. But it seems like they're kind of trying to target that Dragon not having any weakness
Yeah.
in play. So kind of interesting. 250 I think is double colorless, or yeah, double colorless, and then 2 water energies. And I think it's like either discard or this Pokemon can attack next turn or something like that. But yeah, I just thought the first attack with 3 colorless was kind of interesting, to auto paralyze a dragon, active Pokemon that your opponent has in play.
Yeah, and actually, so there's no. I'm not seeing. I'm reading Twans right now. We've got it pulled up here on the screen. I'm not seeing any discard, so it just says it does 30
Okay.
damage to itself. I think
Oh,
this.
all right.
Yeah, I think this is a cool card, and it kind of, and again, I've not played a ton of 2013, but this feels like back in the day. I don't remember the name of the deck. Again, back in the old days, decks had cool names, unlike now, where it's just like the Pokemon EX or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a Blastoise Keldeo deck that also had a Kyurem in there. I think it was a
Oh,
black
okay.
Kyurem, and it
Yep.
was very similar. Like the Blastoise Keldeo is very similar to Chimpow of these days, where you've got Deluge and the Blastoise Keldeo accelerating energy, and now you have the Baxcalibur accelerating energy. So very similar. And I could see this being splashed into Chimpow and making
Yeah.
Chimpow, not have to discard a ton of energies to hit for big numbers. And then once this gets knocked out, because again, it's a basic Pokemon too, so like you just throw this in active and you accelerate the energies to it, and hit 250, right? And so
Hmm.
I could see it being kind of cool. We'll see. I'll let the big Chimpow or the CEOs of Chimpow determine whether or not this is viable in that deck or not. But I could see it being kind of neat as another attacking option. Um, yeah, cool card.
Yeah, and I think the last item we have a Stellar Flygon EX. So I know
Yeah.
Flygon has a pretty special place in a few people's. I like Flygon as well too. But
Hmm.
yeah, if you want to kind of cover that, pretty cool. I
Yeah,
just
really
like
neat card.
so it's the stellar, yeah, so it's stellar terror type, so really crazy water or excuse me, really
Artwork.
crazy yeah, artwork and energy requirements.
Hmm.
But if you want to touch on it, because it does have kind of some cool attacks.
Yeah, I think this would be cool, and I think a lot of people, like I said, I also love Flygon, and Flyterra is a deck that a lot of people love from the olden days. So Flygon EX has two attacks. It is a stage two, obviously. You've got to evolve up to it, so determine if you want to do that back to back, or if you want to rare candy it. 310 HP. It is technically it's a fighting type, but again, it's the new Stellar, so obviously it's got some abilities there. Its first attack is called Stormback. It does 130 damage for one fighting energy, and it states you may switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So, pretty neat little interaction there for one energy to hit for 130. That's pretty nice. Again, being that it's a stage two, will we see that being as relevant? Because will you is 130 after everybody's already evolved? Is that super relevant?
Right.
TBD there. And then its second attack for a water, a fighting, and a still. It is, I guess, Peridot Sonic is how I'd pronounce that from first glance there. Maybe I didn't even think to read it there. But Peridot Sonic, this attack does 100 damage to all, not any or some, but to all your opponent's EXs and V Pokemon, and ignores all weakness and resistance too, which is pretty cool. I think you're going to have to determine and decide if it's worth the energy count. I'm sure obviously we've got some special energies. So like I could foresee this running somewhere where, you have two types, maybe a Goldango, for example, where you're running a steel and water. So maybe somewhere like that could be kind of cool. But again, it does require three energy types, and then some special energy too if you want to make that happen. So interesting. I still am yet to really. I think these stellar Pokemon are interesting. The energy count making them almost like a dragon type Pokemon having multiple energy requirements is very unique. So we'll see. We'll see how this comes into fruition. I can almost guarantee it's going to have an insanely gorgeous SIR. Just from the SIRs we've seen from coming out in Stellar Crown, this one's going to be amazing. Again, because Flygon's just a cool, pretty Pokemon too. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a well beloved Pokemon, so I'm excited about the artwork as well too.
Yeah,
The second attack, well, just reading that is really cool in terms of like a late game, but I really was disappointed with like the Terra typing with
yeah,
not necessarily like Charterstone has an ability, but it's the Terra trait. I think is officially what it's called. We can't do bench damage to it,
right.
um, and right now there's just not enough like a bunch of V's. It's not just a big V deck outside of like Reggie Drago and Lugia, right? Is kind of
Right.
the only ones. Everything else is big basic EX. It's just the format that we live in right now.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that it said, ignore all weaknesses and resistance,
Yeah,
because then that can kind of be crazy. But yeah, I suppose there could be like a checkmate scenario. But again,
right.
I just think with the card pool that we know right now,
Mm-hmm.
just maybe sit on this one for a little bit, and then if we get
Yeah.
something more, Manaphy rotates, for example. But again,
Uh huh.
it's the terror trait that I have the biggest problem with. If this had something where like it shreds everywhere, so it gets through that terror trait. Um, but again, like it's a terror trait, so to my knowledge, like you can't ever turn that off whatsoever. It's not like an ability where you can
Yeah.
cancel and clone it
At
because it's
least
not
that
an
we've
ability;
seen.
it's a trait.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if that brings out something that's like, okay, this thing maybe comes back out of the binder.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, Flygon is well beloved in the community by
Yep.
just as a general Pokemon. So cool that it at least gets the stellar typing and stuff like that. So we'll probably get a cool hyper rare of it. But
Hmm.
yeah, one of those where don't really see anything quite yet. But we'll
Right.
see. You never know what's
Time
going
will
to be
tell.
continue to get revealed. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that is what we have. And then I think did we even say the release date for Surging Sparks? We've been talking about it. Did you preface that if it comes out November 8th at all?
Yeah, no, I did not. Sorry. Yeah, it comes out
Okay.
November 8th, so not too far from now. Obviously, Stellar Crown is coming out the week of Baltimore, and then we just get it, a month and a half or so before we get to roll this out. Perfect time for the holidays, so put it on your holiday list if that's something you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously you'll need to get it before if you're a competitive TCG player. So, but I suspect they'll have some cool holiday releases and things like that too for this set, maybe, or unless they've revealed everything. But we'll see.
Yeah, like I don't know if we'll get like what we got with Crown Zenith, where if it's something comes out in like January instead of
Yeah.
December with this coming out, but at
Hmm.
least we have kind of back to that month and a half. Well, it'll
Yeah.
even be longer, right? Because it's released November
Yeah.
8th, so it actually wouldn't be viable till closer to
Yeah.
LAIC. Or no,
Right.
I forget they moved up LAIC this year,
Yeah.
but
LASC will be
but the
before this,
before
right?
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this will come out it'll be official the 22nd. So at least we have like a little bit longer with Stellar Crown, which again is a big set as well too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I said, with things kind of just getting packed in so
Right.
tightly here. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Latias and Latios card art, people have been talking about like that. That is like the best pack art that we've seen
Mm-hmm.
in the Scarlet and Violet area. So
Yeah. Pretty excited for it. Um, and one thing I saw, this is kind of a quick tangent as well, but we had mentioned Stellar Crown. I don't know about your area, Aaron, but if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure we have some here locally. Pre-releases are starting this week too, so get excited for Stellar
oh
Crown
wow,
coming out.
yeah.
Pre-releases start this week. I know we've got a spot here in Durham that usually puts it on 2 weeks in a row, because it's just that big a deal too. So I won't be attending any pre-releases. We kind of have a thing in the house where that's where Caitlin takes Graham. That's kind of like their thing together, which is really cool. I'm all for it. It gets Caitlin out there playing some Pokemon. Graham loves having the mom go out there and stuff like that too. So, but I get to reap the benefits because they get to pull all the cool stuff, and then we get to throw them in some decks and start testing too. So,
Nice.
big time in the TCG. But yeah, I think that's it, Aaron. I think we almost hit our goal of an hour. But anything else we need to cover before we kind of say our goodbyes for this week? I think we have a
Just
couple
very
from the
two.
PCS side.
Yeah, for strictly our PCS community, which we love. We did finish out. So Jeffrey from Belgium that I talked about, he went 4-0 with his water deck in the GLC. So props to everyone for playing to that. That was fun for kind of our first foray into it, and then particularly a few gentlemen in our Discord and everything. That was kind of their first foray into it too, and they did kind of like just a little bit of a change up from the standard.
Yeah.
And then the PCS podcast standard tournament. Again, this one we're doing a kind of unique band. So each week, our Patreon members and ourselves included, we have to submit 3 deck lists to each other. The lower seed gets to band first, and then so on and so forth. So that's fun. Carlos is, like I said, out to a quick 2-0, and then basically everyone else besides me is 1-1. As well too. So
Yeah.
just need to get one more win because I've gone 1-2 in the best of 3. So I just need to figure out a way to maybe win the first game to ease off my deck selections. But I think I might try to do a little bit more meta here the last few weeks. So I just want to do a quick update for that
Yeah. Not
before
gonna
our
lie.
good.
Yeah, not gonna lie. You kind of made me nervous now. I don't think I put two and two together there with Carlos being the back-to-back champion of the world essentially. So
Yes.
I've got some work to do. And he's trying to make me play really fast, like today or tomorrow. So man, I gotta get this going.
Yeah, you got to buckle down and get him. I
Gotta
joked with
lock
him
in.
is, yeah, he's going to be out and everything. So I told him like, well, maybe you will have to play while you're at your convention and drinking and having fun and stuff like that because we need you to get it. Need you to get at least get it
Yeah,
out.
okay. Now
Uh,
I'm tracking the banter there. Maybe I force him to play like on a Thursday night just to give me the slight
Yeah,
edge.
just
I'm just
just to
kidding.
put a knife in him a little bit. No, Carlos has been a great addition to our community. He's such a good dude.
Yeah,
And like I said, I enjoyed catching up with him because I hadn't really talked to him for like 2 or 3 weeks. So last week in the Discord, I jumped in the voice channels with him and Darius were in there, and then Josh joined a couple times. Just chatting. That's usually what happens about almost every night of the week. Someone's doing something to
yeah,
jump in, whether it be playtesting or just talking shop as well too. So I like again, I love the community that we're building and we'll continue to build here. So yeah, our last little goodbyes. I just want to thank all the Patreon members. We had a couple new guys join over the last couple 3 to 4 weeks. And again, everything that's going through is literally going to go right back into either production equipment of this. I am going to get a mic here sooner or later, but then it really I use whatever I get and put that into getting stuff from the Pokemon Center or just like I said, I've been trying to kind of get some kind of playable like standard cards, right? Where I thought like it'd be really cool for the winner to get like 4 Arvins, 4 Ionos, 4 Nest like just stuff like that. Where just really solid trainers that it's going to be really good. I know people might have that, but maybe they aren't like me where they have like 4 or 5 decks constantly sleeved up sitting around and stuff
yeah,
like that. So just trying to think that. So I just really do I think everyone that helps donate that, and like I said, it is going right back into the show, and clearly back in Carlos's hands because he won the bi-monthly or the bi or I do every other month we do a giveaway for our Patreon members, and Josh won the first one, and then Carlos won the last one, which was a Generation 3 uh, deck box as well too,
that's
from the
amazing.
Pokemon Center. So yeah, so I was like, man, when it rains, it pours. Carlos apparently.
He's
So
cleaning
uh,
up, man. He's cleaning up the
yeah, like I said, I was
PCS.
like, we've got to get him out of winning things as well too. So
Carlos, if you're
yeah,
listening to this, I'm coming for you. I'm coming
yeah,
for you.
exactly. So he's like I said, he's a really good, just a down to earth dude, which
That's
is
awesome.
literally what this community is about. Is very casual, competitive, but all about just trying to help each
Yeah,
other grow. So yeah, for me, you can find me basically anything PCS. So Twitter or X is PCS_pod. Twitch, we're at PCS Podcast. We're still learning the ins and outs of Twitch as well too. And then patreon.com/PCS Podcast. And then YouTube, which is really easy if you
yep,
sense the theme here, youtube.com at the PCS Podcast. And we will have all of these linked in
yeah,
our show notes as well too. And then yeah, that's where you can find anything PCS related, or myself as well included. I try
yep.
to tweet out as when I have something to tweet is when I tweet. I don't try to tweet every single day, but if I see something or want to give props to someone, then you'll see me chatting. And so we're still working up to get more video content related outside of just the podcast. But
Yeah.
Michael, where can the folks find you at?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. You can find me at Twitter at mheradiaptcg, and that's it. You can find me bantering about whatever, all that good stuff, posting pictures of my cute kids and all that. So yeah, you can find me there. I think that's it for the night. We appreciate you all tuning in again. Hopefully tonight's episode had no technical glitches. Aaron, I think we're good. I think we're in the clear. I was the whole time monitoring the the screen share audio, and I think we're good. But appreciate you all again for sticking with us. We got some comments on Spotify, so thanks for commenting, letting us know the audio is incorrect. We unfortunately found out immediately after, but I can hopefully guarantee that this week is better. So thanks again for listening. Can't wait to have you guys back next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you next week.
Cheers. Take care. See ya.